first speaker, Brenda Night. The title of Brenda's speech, Delusional, You May Be the Judge. Delusional, You Be the Judge. Brenda Night.
What is said versus what's perceived often become misconstrued. Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, I've got a secret. I've got two men interested in me, and my husband does not have a clue. I'm not surprised, though, because you see, I've got it like that. I've got this one gentleman. He calls me. He calls me. He calls my home. He calls my cell. He calls me, and he calls again. He calls me. He calls me. His secretary has got to be jealous. I think it's cute. He calls, he calls, he calls. Finally, I paid him a visit. Yes, I did. I went to his place, and I sat in his chair. Yes, his chair. The door was open. He was expecting me. And then he entered the room. I was thinking in my mind, this man is gorgeous. He walked up to me, and he gently placed his hand under my chin, elevating my face toward his. I am hypnotized, mesmerized, transfixed. He looks at me. He has deep interest. He has sincere concern. He says, Brenda, periodontal disease is nothing to play with. I simply must see you more often. What I thought he wanted, and he went on to give me a litany of reasons, all pertaining to periodontal disease. As I was leaving, he slipped discreetly a tube in my hand. I looked at him and said, "Oh, you devil, you." And as I was going to the car, I looked at the tube. It said, Dr. Pleasant's halitosis breathalyzer. Maximum strength. Okay. But I have other men. I have this other guy. And he has called as well. Not as frequent, but he has called. I paid him a visit very early in the morning because he said no one comes before me. I arrived at his place, which has somewhat of a zen-like quality. Very, very soothing. I walked in, sat in his chair, and placed my feet on his side. Of course, he was expecting me. I was requested. He He entered the room, spoke not a word, and went straight to work. For you see, I knew what he wanted, and I was there to give it to him. And he began to work. This feels so good. He complimented me. He told me. He said, you have beautiful feet for a woman of your age. A woman of my age. Excuse me? A woman of my age. He began to tell me about this gentleman who specializes in foot fungus. And I am literally insulted because you don't pass me to another man. I'm not that kind of woman. He too began to give me a tube. I'm terminating this relationship. He doesn't even know it. And as I was leaving, I looked at the tube. It said, Dr. Lee's fungal gel. Apply immediately. Feeling very, very guilt-ridden as I go home, I began to feel I should discuss this with my husband. He's a good man, and he's not worthy of this infidelity. When I go home, I explain this to him, and he tells me, Brenda, confidence you have, delusional you truly are. Let's drink the contest.
Our next speaker is Sid More. The title of Sid's speech is Jitters. Jitters, Sid More.
Contest master, Toastmasters, guests. I think as we follow life's progression, that we try to be, sometimes we try to be cheerful and positive, and also, you know, have confidence. I think that's as we should be. But just for tonight, let's look at the flip side. The underbelly of our the underbelly of our paranoid delusions, our personality defects, our character flaws, and let's be fears and phobias. Ah, yes, fears and phobias. Of them, I've had a few. For instance, as you can just see, fear of public speaking. That's why I joined Toastmasters. And there's a fear of private speaking, not invited to Toastmasters. Then there's a fear of a torrential rain sweeping me into a storm drain. Fear of driving off a bridge into a raging, swollen river. The fear of being trampled by the river dancers. Finally, there's a fear of being framed for jaywalking. Fear of being impaled upon a jousting pole. And lastly, the universal fear of flushing my wallet down the toilet in a public restroom. And that last one probably doesn't apply to women or anyone who's sane. Now, one time I confided all these issues and and concerns to my trusted friend Nancy. Afterwards, she stared at me intently, as if studying me. She looked at me from different angles and perspectives. Finally, she said, "Sid, have you ever heard the term, just be yourself?" I said, "Yes, I've heard that term. That's a good term. I like that term. Yes, sirree, just be yourself. That's a real Jim dandy." And she said, "Well, listen carefully, because my advice to you is just..." And I always have, because my friend Nancy told me. Now, over the years, of course, I have overcome many of my fears and phobias, but you still won't catch me at a River Dancers concert. Humanity. Although I've been a Toastmaster for many, many years, I still have more nerves and jitters about public speaking than I would prefer. When I tell people this, they say, "So what? Big deal. Everyone still has some butterflies when they get up to speak in public. Get over it." But I refuse. I have tried many of the conventional methods to feel more relaxed and at ease, such as the progressive relaxation, the deep breathing, the positive self-talk, the visualization. For instance, there's the classic method where you imagine that the audience doesn't have any clothes on. That never helped me because I thought, wait a minute. So I'm the only one here that has clothes on. And I must be the oddball, the outsider, the one that didn't get the memo, the one that's out of the loop. So that only made me feel more alienated. Now, I have thought of a couple of techniques that may or may not be original, but I haven't had a chance myself to use them. For instance, one is that I find just for myself that the closer I am to the audience, the more uneasy I feel. For instance, I feel a lot more relaxed if everyone here was backed up against the far wall. But that's probably not feasible. But maybe with a smaller crowd and a smaller venue, the audience would agree to do that. And then as the speaker went along, he or she would gesture for them to come forward gradually. Like you gesture and they'd move up to the back row and gesture again and move up to the next row. Well, the problem with that could be that if the speaker gestured too rapidly, it might appear as a mad mob. and that wouldn't be helpful. Now the other technique is based on a quote by the wit and author Oscar Wilde, who said, "Man is least himself when he speaks in his own person, but give him a mask and he will tell you the truth." So maybe if the speaker were allowed to wear a mask, it would make him feel less intimidated and more confident. And they could start with like a full frontal face mask, like Hannibal Lecter, and graduate to a partial mask, like Phantom of the Opera, then maybe to a Lone Ranger mask, and finally end with a eye patch, like a pirate, and work those scenes into the speech. Well, like I say, I haven't had a chance myself to actually try those methods out, but I invite anyone in the audience to use them. And if they're successful, let me know. And I'll gladly take full credit. But, of course, then I would have to deal with my fear of success. Fun Toastmasters.
The next speaker is Elliot Leibson. The title of Elliot's speech, The Immorality of Puns in Advertising. The Immorality of Puns in Advertising, Elliot Leibson.
Mr. Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, lend me your ears. I come to you today not as Elliot Leibson, Toastmaster extraordinaire, but rather I come to you as Urkel Studmuffin, Chairman and CEO of Attaboy Marketing. Perhaps you've heard of us. We were spun off the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company of Scranton, Pennsylvania. Might have heard of them. And I come to you today on an issue of the gravest concern, the immorality of puns in advertising. Yes, puns. Think you this is a joking matter? And well, you should not. For this insidious cancer has infected our noble profession up to the highest levels. And I fear that if something is not done, we will all fall victim to depravity and vice. What's worse than that? This dread disease is so subtle that the public, the poor innocent public, actually thinks they like these advertisements. And they clamor for more and more, choking out precious time for public service announcements and public messages. Think of what this does to our brave personal injury attorneys. Think of their children. And what, you may be asking, is this creeping crud of which I do cry? Well, an excellent question. Allow me now to give you a few examples to illustrate this perfidious evil. Consider the example of Salcedo Plumbing of King City, California. It's not enough for them to say quality service at the best price. No, they went straight to the toilet and proudly state to all and sundry, a good flush beats a full house. Now, my friends, this is not an ad about plumbing. No, this is clearly a clandestine promotion of gambling and must be exposed to the world at all costs. And now, what of their neighbors? The Hey Diddle Diddle Diaper Service of Hollister, California, actual service, who has the nerve to say, let us lighten your load. Now, if there were ever a more subtle or obvious, for that matter, example of socialized labor, I have never heard it. Truly, this is a dire threat to our capitalist way of childbearing life. I mean, come on. What red-blooded American lets a bunch of meddling outsiders change their child's diapers for them? Especially when the child is clearly capable of doing it themselves. No, this is socialized pontification masquerading as advertising, and I will not stand for it, not in my country. And even sex is not safe from this villainy. A pastry shop having the gall, the absolute unmitigated chutzpah of having a sign saying, get your buns in here, out on the town square, where all the passers-by can come up, walk past the store, smell the pastries, see the sign, and suddenly be transported into fantasies of Brenda circuses. Can you imagine this? Well, you don't have to, because unfortunately, Glenn's Pastries of Gallup, New Mexico has done the imagining for you. And now the good people of Gallup, New Mexico can walk past Glenn's shop, smell the pastries and read the signs, and fulfill their deepest desires for hot cross buns. Right out in the town square. Citizens, will we stand for this? Will we loaf around while this evil stands unchallenged? Are there none of us strong enough to rise to the occasion? Are there none among you who are willing to fight for this, to protect our society from this perfidious insanity? I can't even come with the words. None of us? Well, nay, I say, nay. No more. No more will we stand by while vicious veterinarians tell us, back in 5 minutes, sit, stay. No more will we stand by while illicit electricians peddle the most dubious pleasures of the flesh when they tell us, let us remove your shorts. The time has come to stand up and do something and protect our society from this depravity and vice. Now I want you to get up. Everyone, get up. I want you to stand up now. I want you to go to that window. I want you to go to your phone, to your neighborhood store, to your elected officials, to your Facebook friends, to your Twitter tweets. I want you to go to them, and I want you to stand up and demand that we return to a society of justice and virtue. No longer, tell them no longer will we sit, curl up and die at the neighborhood salon. No longer will we go to the electrician. Yes, you can sit down. No longer will we go to the window repairman and say, please fix our pains. We can stop this. We can stop this now, and we can protect our homes, our schools, our communities from this dread evil. We can stand against the day when church message boards proudly state, God answers an email, and then we can... Never mind. Mr. Contest Master.
The next speaker is E.K. Keller. E.K.'s speech title is Awkwardness. Awkwardness, E.K. Keller.
Mr. Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. Awkwardness. You guys know what I'm doing? I'm creating awkwardness. Did anybody feel that right there? Just want to make sure you felt that. As a culture, we fear awkwardness. We hate it. We'll do anything to avoid it. But I finally come to the conclusion in my own life that rather than try to fight it, rather than try to avoid it, I'm going to embrace the awkward moments of life. But the question is going to be, how will you react? When I was 15 years old, I worked at a place called Nacho Mama's. It was a Tex-Mex restaurant here in St. Louis. I know the name says it all, great food. And my boss, John, I hated greeting John, because most people, you greet them very simple. You know, they say hi, you say hello. Someone says, how are you doing? You know, I'm doing well, thank you, sir. But greeting John was so awkward. I would come in and he would say, EK, what do you say? What do you say, EK? I don't know, John. I don't know what to say. How do you respond to that? And I would get so mad at John. I got so frustrated that I finally went up to him. I said, John, you know, when you ask me, what do you say, EK? I have no way to respond to that. Because it was awkward. Very plain and simply put, it was awkward. And you have people that will avoid those types of situations, which is exactly what I did. I avoided them from that. Very plain and simply awkward. I remember when I was in college, I was courting a young lady. We were talking for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and it's a Saturday afternoon. We're sitting on the couch in my dorm. Okay, we're watching television. I've got the remote in my hand. I'm flipping through trying to find a football game. In awkward silence, you could say that. But I'm not paying attention to that. Again, remote in my hand, trying to find a game. Flap, flap. Out of nowhere, she breaks the silence and asks this question. EK, are you ticklish? Let's try to level jump. And I say back to her, you know what, sweetie? No, I'm sorry. No, I'm not ticklish. Well, I didn't realize this at the time. And I almost felt bad for saying I'm not ticklish, as if I was supposed to be or something. But I didn't realize this at the time. But when you say that you're not ticklish to someone who's a tickler, they take that as some old permission slip to go ahead and try to tickle you anyway, because obviously you're in denial. Or maybe you were deprived as a child and you've never felt the overwhelming joy of being tickled. So again, I'm sitting there flipping through the TV, flap, flap, out of nowhere, she reaches over and starts tickling. Just like that. She even made the noise. With it. Super awkward. Now, how do I respond in this situation? Do I get mad at her like, hey, look, I told you I'm not ticklish, all right? No, that would be even more awkward. So, or do I just fake laugh as if, wow, you're right. Being tickled is an amazing experience. I never felt this joy before. The relationship ended very early. So it was too awkward. Didn't know how to respond to it. And you have people that will completely avoid relationships because of this awkwardness. Because it's just very plain and simply awkward. Maybe you've been in this situation before. You're talking to somebody and you're having a deep conversation. I mean, you're talking to maybe a boss or a church member. And you guys are talking about deep things. You're fleshing out social issues. And in response to what you say, I mean, you're making good eye contact here. In response to what you've said, the person says, you know what? You're exactly right. That's exactly what we need to do. And as they utter the words, do, spit from their mouth, travels out, hits you in the face, back, just like that, just like, boom, right there in the face. And you were looking at him the whole time, so you even saw it coming and flinched and hit you in the face. Now what do? He just spat on your face. Do you say something about it, like, hey, you just spit on my face? No, you do what most people do. You ignore it. You ignore it as if they would be offended that you wipe their spit off your face. Did you just wipe my spit off your face? It's awkward. These awkward moments. How do you respond to that? You'll have people that will completely avoid small talk because of fear of being spat on in the face. No, because of fear of this awkwardness. How do you respond to it? Well, what have we been doing tonight? We've been talking about some awkward moments that we've all dealt with at some point. We've been sharing some laughs. It's been kind of fun. I want us to remember this the next time you're in a situation you're thinking, okay, it's about to get awkward. Rather than avoid it, rather than run from it, remember that, hey, look, everybody shares these experiences. It's human nature. See, awkwardness is a time for us to take a step back out of our busy day. Realize it's our life's inside joke. You know, take off whatever task you wear, whatever role you bear, and simply laugh. Laugh at yourself. Laugh at the situation. Laugh at the other person. Because it's just very plain and simply awkward. Mr. Contest Master.
The next speaker is Mary Buchanan. The title of Mary's speech, My Great Addiction. My Great Addiction, Mary Buchanan.
contest master, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. What I am about to share with you is real. The stories, painful to me, hopefully will be joyful to you, but I want you to know that as you leave here tonight, don't start asking yourself, well, I wonder if those were true. Pinky swear, everything I'm about to tell you is true. I have a great addiction. What better place than to confess it amongst your closest friends and strangers? I am greatly addicted to chewing gum. I know what just happened. We just split this room down in two. We have 50% of you who understand exactly what I'm talking about with chewing gum. Yes, you're the ones with hidden wrappers in your purses and your cars. You're the go-to girl when people have been drinking too much coffee. And you understand the joy, the comfort that can come from chewing your gum. And then there's the other 50%. The 50% who have no clue why somebody would ever stick a piece of substance in their mouth that they do not intend to swallow. And worse yet, that some might actually swallow. Yes, you're the ones who consider people who chew gum as obnoxious, like cows chewing the cud. You have no idea what comfort it can bring us gum chewers. And how do I know this 50-50 split? Because as I've already told you with my addiction, I am a great addict of chewing gum. And there sits the other 50%, my loved one, who has no understanding why I have this addiction. I'll have to tell you, over the last 29 years, he has supported me greatly in all of my dealings with chewing gum. Let me take you back a little ways to tell you where this addiction started. I was 3 years old when I found myself shopping in the grocery store with my mom. And if you ever notice that the cash registers, there's a foray of lovely wrapped packages here just to the side where a 3-year-old can grab them. And I forayed into, I hate to confess it, shoplifting. At the age of 3, I took a pack of the zebra-striped fruit stripe gum. Oh yes, you've seen them on the commercials, the zebra with the many colors. Everybody loved the gum. And I slyly slid that into my pocket, and I made it out of that store, and I made it into the back seat of the car. But I was a stupid little 3-year-old, and I did not realize how fragrant and aromatic that fruit gum was. And so as I proceeded in the back seat of my mom's car, she's driving us home, sticking all 7 pieces in my mouth, my mom turned around and said, well, Mary, explain to you is that we had a firm household rule. There was no gum chewing until you were 5. 5 years old was the age of gum chewing in our house, and this was my first taste of this wonderful gum. Well, needless to say, my mom, being the good mother that she was, she drove me back to the store, and I stood there apologetically with my mouth still full of gum, telling the manager that I would work out the 10 cents and give him back that money over the next several weeks because I only got pennies at a time. Well, move forward, and we foray into bazooka bubblegum. What's better than gum with comics? I tell you, now my mom and dad started to figure out this is really not so bad if we just sort of play along with this. Christmas morning, we run downstairs, and my brother Joe gets a basketball hoop and a basketball. And my sister Julie gets a beautiful, like a green bike with a basket on it. And there, wrapped just for me, nobody was happier that day, was my own whole package of bazooka bubble gum. Yes, my mom and dad made out on that deal, but I love gum. Now, I continue to chew gum. I chewed gum when I was nervous. I chewed gum when I was happy. I know my mom kept a jar of peanut butter, and in case you didn't know it, peanut butter helps get gum out of hair. Yes, it really does. And there was a jar of peanut butter that really had the words, Mary's hair, peanut butter, do not eat. So I understand that I really did have a problem, and my parents understood this as well. Well, fast forward a little bit into high school where my taste becoming a little bit more sophisticated. I gave up bubble gum, and I forayed into the spearmints, the peppermints, and yes, I could even handle the cinnamons. Oh, I loved gum, and gum was my friend, and so I would chew this gum constantly. And I have to tell you right now, I can do more than just one piece. I don't understand people who think that one piece of gum is enough. I used to have at least 2 or 3. Now I have cut back a little bit to 2 at a time. Now, did you know, this is truth because it was on the internet, that the average person eats 300 sticks of gum a year? Well, now think about that. 50% of you don't like gum at all. That means the other 50% of us are eating 600 sticks a year to make it an average. And I'll have to tell you that I do hold up my bargain on that one. I'm taking care of you slackers over there for that average. So now, what's going to happen in my future? I am so thankful that our marketers and our companies have come up with free dent. That's a very important thing for somebody like me. And I did want to just take a quick minute for those 50% in there who are saying, I still have no clue what this woman is talking about with this gum. I want you to understand that there are known benefits to chewing gum. You've probably heard that 5 out of 6 dentists actually recommend chewing sugar-free gum. It's good for your teeth, it's good for your oral health. It's a wonderful thing to have. There are other benefits. Did you know that if you chew gum while you are peeling onions, you will not cry? Yeah, you didn't know that. You guys gotta go home and try that now. And did you know also that there are studies out there that show that chewing gum actually increases your memory and your cognitive abilities? So the next time you're sitting for that hard test, go ahead and stick in a couple pieces of gum. I am a great chewing gum addict, but I have to tell you, with all of these benefits, with all of the joys that it brings to me, I am not one about to go out and join the Chewing Gum Anonymous Club. Mr. Contest Master.
So this is our humor speech contest, and I'd like to start off with our third place. We'll announce our third place. There was one disqualification due to the timing, so that'll affect the standings a little bit. But for our third place, District Humor Speech Contest goes to Mary Buchanan. Second place for the Humor Speech Contest goes to Earl Keller. This is the time you've all been waiting for. This is the time that, well, actually, the different announcements for the time to see what we need to do at this point. Okay, I know we're all waiting for the big news. So for the Humor Speech Contest for 2010 Fall Conference goes to Brenda Night.
Lights on.